Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg said in a discussion here at George Washington University that she will not be retiring before 2012.
I guess I should get this out of the way quickly. I am constantly asked, is Justice Ginsburg going to retire soon? So I will ask you that. Do you have any plans for your retirement?
I will give the answer that I just gave to you, Nina, a few moments ago. One of the nice perks about this job is that we get to choose paintings from the storage supply of the National Gallery, the Museum of American Art, the Hirshhorn. I had a wonderful painting from the Museum of American Art by Joseph Albers. It was taken away for a traveling exhibition, and I'm told that it will come back to me sometime in 2012. So I'm certainly not going to retire before I get my Albers back. I think another answer that I can give you is I was appointed at age 60, the same age that Louis Dembitz Brandeis was when he was appointed to the court. He stayed until he was 83, so I do have a way to go.
Later in her questioning, NPR's Nina Totenberg, who moderated the discussion, brought up the current case concerning the constitutionality of the health care law.
There's another question I want to ask you. There's been quite a lot of discussion in the last few days and last week in particular about how quickly a certain case might get to the Supreme Court. In particular, the health law. And I'm not foolish enough to ask you how the court's going to rule on the health care law. But I am wondering, because these cases normally work their way up from district courts to appellate courts to the Supreme Court, and the one time that the Supreme Court is really almost required to take a case is if there are conflicting decisions in the appellate courts, so that whole areas of the country have laws that are different from one another. But are there any customs, rules, anything like that govern how fast a case can get to the Supreme Court if Congress hasn't specifically said it has to be expedited? Does the court have rules about this? Do you have customs about this?
The ordinary route to the Supreme Court, if we're speaking of the federal courts now, is first the trial court, the federal district court, then the Court of Appeals, a three-judge panel. Sometimes one litigant or another would ask the Court of Appeals then to review the case with the full bench, not just the panel of three. And finally, the Supreme Court. So the court itself is a reactive institution. We don't decide, we better get that health care case sooner rather than later. We wait until the case goes through the ordinary route. And that is something that many people don't understand. We have no agenda on the court. We just react to petitions that are presented to us. There are times when there is an urgent need for an immediate answer, like when President Truman decided that it was wartime, we couldn't afford a strike in the steel industries, the government was going to take over the steel mills. Well, a case was brought immediately to stop him from doing that, and it went rapid fire to the Supreme Court. Or the Pentagon paper cases, when the Washington Post could not publish those papers, so the Supreme Court dealt with that case in very short order. But in most cases, the travel is rather slow, and one of the reasons that that's good is by the time that the case comes to the Supreme Court and other courts have considered the issue, we will get a range of views. We will get good minds on federal courts of appeals, district courts, giving their best interpretation of the Constitution as it applies to this particular law. So we do so much better when we have the views of other federal judges who are certainly no less qualified than we are. Then we have the range of views before us, and we can make a better informed decision.
Nicholas Balassi, CNSNews.com, Washington.
Regularly on all things considered.